Hey there, Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for staying up so late. If you're watching live on YouTube, it's after midnight on the East Coast. Go ahead and smash that like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent. If you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, please knock it out while you're here. Dead leg. Champions Classic is in the books. Game one was something. Final score, Michigan State 86, number 4 Kentucky 77 in double overtime. Big win for Tom Izzo's Spartans. And then in the nightcap, it was Kansas and Duke. Final score, Jayhawks 69, Duke 64. Nice. It's a big win for Norm Roberts in the absence of Bill Self. So let's just start with game one, Michigan State, Kentucky. Broadly speaking, your thoughts on watching Tom Izzo's less talented team upset John Calipari's team that started the season ranked number 1 at KenPom.
Eyes on me. Okay. Ready? Eyes on me right now. You and me. Eyes on me. You damn well better rank this Michigan State team. You understand me?
Rank them. I already had them ranked.
Enough.
I already had them ranked.
You better have this team in the top 15.
Do you realize?
Listen to this.
Do you realize I'm the guy who told you? What's the day? It's late Tuesday, early Wednesday. I'm the guy who told you on Sunday night that even if Michigan State lost a competitive game to Kentucky to drop to 1-2 on the season, I would still have them at 1-2, ranked in the top 25 of 1. Would you like to ask me where they're at with a 2-1 record, 1 point loss to Gonzaga, and a victory over Kentucky?
Where are they at?
Top 5.
Whoa. Okay, let's calm it down there.
What do you do with the team? What do you do with a team like this?
All right, lay it out. I got thoughts on the game, but we're already
number 1 Gonzaga, right. Number 2 North Carolina, number 3 Houston, number 4 Michigan State, number 5 Kentucky, and then I'm trying to figure it out after that. I'm trying to figure out how to. You run into these weird situations where Michigan State jumping so high without Kentucky dropping too far is going to push down like a Arkansas, like a Baylor. And then you got to figure out, okay, do I jump Kansas over an Arkansas and a Baylor, even though I had Baylor projected as the Big 12 champ, and Baylor's done nothing to move me off of that, but Kansas did just beat Duke on a neutral court. How do you handle all that? I'll figure it out late tonight or early tomorrow, but trust me when I tell you, Michigan State's in the top 5, and I think I'm going to keep them right there at 4 behind only Gonzaga, North Carolina, and Houston. And I do that for 2 reasons. A, they got the resume to support it right now. 1 point loss to Gonzaga on an aircraft carrier, a 9-point win over Kentucky on a neutral court in double overtime. And I'd like to also, reward people for scheduling aggressively. That's what Tom Izzo's done. His team has delivered. I'll rank them accordingly.
No huge objection there. Props to you on that. Okay, so they get Oscar Tshiebwe back, does Kentucky in this one. He averaged 17.4 points and 15.1 boards last season. He played starters minutes on Tuesday and exceeds those averages. 22 points, 18 boards, 4 blocks, 5 turnovers. Did foul out late. Did have a lapse on defense that even allowed Malik Hall to get the game-tying dunk the first time in regulation to send this to the bonus session there. For Kentucky, let me just focus on Kentucky here. I get why UK fans are going to have some gripes over this, because down the stretch, to me, when I watched the game, it felt like what got Kentucky in an advantageous position for most of the night seemed to kind of dissipate down the stretch in regulation and in the overtimes there. Maybe a change in pace overall. I thought, generally speaking, Kentucky played mostly pretty well. I mean, Michigan State, you got to figure the opponent here. Izzo, a wonderful coach. Cason Wallace, 8 steals, ties a record. We were at the game the last time a Kentucky Wildcat got 8 swipes in a contest. That was against UNC in the 2018 CBS Sports Classic out in the United Center. Cason Wallace, just ridiculous defender. Unbelievable performance out of him. I figure they'll continue to get that on a night in, night out basis. Not 8 steals, but he just seems like the kind of player who is both mentally and physically prepared to show up on time at the office and play extremely well. But offensively, Kentucky didn't average a point per possession. CJ Frederick only had 5 points. Jacob Toppin was a little bit here and there. Now, if I'm not driving the train, I'm certainly in the first car on the Jacob Toppin can be a star for Kentucky, the 1B to Sheboy's 1A on this team. He was solid. He wasn't great overall. He had 10 points, a block, 4 boards, no assists, 1 turnover, 4 fouls there. Just not quite enough overall. Severe Wheeler, he got plenty of shots up, but he was under a point per shot as well there. So, and credit to Michigan State's defense. They did a good job. I'll get to Sparty in just a second, but Kentucky not being able to capitalize late, GP, that was just a little bit surprising to me because they should have won in regulation. And a nice design by Izzo, no doubt about it. But Hall just simply he just slips in. Sheboy doesn't see it coming. He just did not see it coming. It was just through the back door. Hello, here we are, jam, and we're going to the bonus session. And then, Kentucky plays shorthanded once Sheboy winds up fouling out, and that's going to limit them significantly. What were your thoughts on what you saw from or didn't see from Cal's team?
Well, I'm with you. I thought Kentucky should have won the game in regulation and then should have won the game at the end of the first overtime. And both times, Tom Izzo, after the game, gave credit to his assistants, and I don't want to totally disregard that. But Tom Izzo's fingerprints were all over that. And for them to get 2 out of bounds plays that result in dunks to tie the game and send it to an extra period is outrageous. The first one was hilarious because you're right. Sheboy just messed up. I don't know if you saw it. I tweeted it. He's walking back toward the Kentucky bench, and Cal will lose his mind on players. I mean, call them MF and P's and everything else. It's all been caught on camera. Cal just sort of calmly looked at Oscar and just said, "Why did you do that?" it was hilarious.
That's the essence of coaching right there. Why did you do that? Yeah.
Why did you do that? And then the out of bounds play where they went full court at the end of the first overtime was just terrific. And that was just well designed. Malik Hall did make a nice play. If you pause it when he catches the ball on the wing, he fakes it. He just so slightly fakes it to the corner to get that guy to bite. And then he had a clear lane to the rim and dunk, and now we're headed to a second overtime. And after the game, Tom was asked about it. He credited his assistants, and he was like, "Sure, I just said, hey, let's go dunk the damn ball. I really like dunks." So he downplayed the role he played in that, but he clearly played a role in that, as coaches do. On the other side, John Calipari said, "Hey, on this out of bounds stuff, that late game situations, that's on me." And so I'm sure Kentucky fans, like I wrote, will have a good time with that on the message boards. The truth is, Kentucky is way more talented than Michigan State, but Michigan State just they stayed in it the whole time. And when Sheboy fouled out, obviously Kentucky was really up against it. And I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that the Spartans going through what they went through Friday night against one of the very best teams in the country helped them, succeed in similar tight, stressful, high stakes, late game situations against Kentucky. It's not the only reason you play these types of games, but among the reasons you play these types of games is so that they'll prepare you for the next big game. And Michigan State looked prepared, comfortable in the moment. And that is, again, not the only reason they were able to win, but certainly on the list of things that led to them winning.
Shouldn't have been surprised by this game being close. 8 of the past 9 times Sparty and Big Blue Nation have squared off. 8 of the past 9 games have been decided either by single digits or the game has gone to overtime. So, as would be expected with 2 Hall of Fame coaches, their teams kind of play up to the moment, or at least play each other close there. For Michigan State, the Tyson Walker to Madi Sissoko connection could be a bit of a game changer there. They had a lob to make it 78-76 late in the game. It was Michigan State's first lead since it was 52-51. Sheboy wasn't on the floor when that happened. And then they had another one to clinch it late. Same exact battery, if you will. Walker to Sissoko. Sissoko had 16 and 8 and 3 steals. Malik Hall had 20 points. But Joey Hauser, by the way, not a quiet 23 and 10, but I will say and I mentioned this on the Sunday pod, I guess, when we were talking about the Gonzaga Michigan State game. They have to get production out of Joey Hauser to be Big Ten contenders, to be able to be a team that you would regard as top 5 in your rankings. And they did get that tonight, which was very, very helpful. But to me, Sissoko has been, I've seen him play 2 games, basically. He's been my favorite player through 8 days of the season. Just the leap he has been able to make. I think it is a game changer. I thought he'd be better. I didn't know if he'd be this, and we'll see how much he can be consistent and keep going with it. But man, oh man, talk about what might be a little bit of a mini revelation there, because he wasn't expected to be Michigan State's best player. He might not even be Michigan State's best player, but getting, he's 11 of 17 from the field at this point in the season. That's 64.7%. He's drawing contact, playing well through it, rebounding well at both ends there. And, he's been on the floor for 60% of Michigan State's minutes through 3 games. They're 2-1 with the 1 loss by 1 point against Gonzaga. Really good gains here for Sparty. And I don't want to completely redo the segment that we had before on the previous show, because we mentioned, is always scheduled up. But my takeaway is this. Yes, the win over Kentucky is important no matter what, but next game is home against Nova on Friday. We'll talk about that on Friday morning's podcast. Then they go to PK 85, and, you'll play probably at least 2 NCAA tournament level teams. It could wind up being 3, seeing how the bracket breaks. We don't know. And then you got to go to Notre Dame before you even get out of November. So accruing these wins and not getting way behind the 8 ball, they've got at least 1 quad 1 win. You got to figure they'll get another one. But if you can get your goal is minimum 3 against a really hard schedule there. Getting this one, you go against 2 top 5 teams and you go 1-1, and neither of those games are on your home floor. You take that every single time, no matter what level team you are. No shock. Tom Izzo found a way to do it. And I thought the fact that he got 2 different kinds of plays on opposite baselines to extend that design, which was like Hauser tripped, and that was obviously an accident, but it benefited the design of the play even more so. And then Malik Hall with just the poise in that moment. Ball fake, almost went Neo in the Matrix on Kentucky's defenders, froze them or made them trip over their own ankles. And he's just got an ocean to the basket, flushes it home. Impressive rally by Sparty. They will play Villanova next Friday at the Breslin Center.
Yeah, on the Kentucky side of things, I mean, we've said all we can say about Michigan State on this podcast and in the previous one. This is not the most talented Michigan State team Tom's ever coached. Tom will tell you that. He said it tonight. By the way, I went and looked this up. Our top 101 players list, 3 Kentucky Wildcats in the top 70. Guess how many Michigan State players made the list?
Malik Hall made the list, did he not?
I don't think so.
He was on my list, and Hauser was close. I know if Hauser's not on the list, he was close. Maybe it's 0, but Malik Hall was on my list.
I mean, I pulled it up, did a search for Michigan, and like Hunter Dickinson popped up, Jet Howard popped up. No Michigan State players popped up.
You keep going. I'm going to fact check it real quick. Go ahead.
And so one of the points I made in the column that is now posted at cbssports.com is that, perhaps that's an oversight on our part. But when we published the list, I don't remember anybody complaining about a lack of Michigan State presence. One thing I do remember hearing people complain about is not having Jacob Toppin. In other words, not having 4 Kentucky players on the list instead of just 3. But I don't remember anybody complaining about us not having enough or any Michigan State players. And so what that suggests is that there is a significant talent discrepancy between these 2 basketball teams. And yet one of them looks like it's got some stuff figured out already. And the other one looks like it's got a lot of stuff to figure out. And I guess that's where I'd bottom line it with Kentucky. One of the things Tom Izzo said after the game is, hey, Kentucky fans, this team's going to be fine. Don't jump off the boat or something like that. And I agree. They're going to be good. I think they just got to figure out who to play. We talked, go listen to our summer shoot around Kentucky episode. One of the points I made is that I liked Kentucky. Obviously, I had them in preseason top 5. I still have them projected to win the SEC. But one of the issues I had with the roster construction is that I didn't know if their best lineup would double as the 5 best players or most talented players on the court. I thought they were going to have to play less talented players to get their best roster lineup combination rather, on the court. And, we're still just 3 games into this, but I think that's still probably true. Like, Xavier Wheeler is excellent at a lot of things, and he really showed a burst to get to the rim over and over again tonight. But he's a non-shooting point guard. I mean, he's not going to bury you from the 3-point line. He's a non-shooter. He did make 2 threes against Michigan State, but he's a non-shooter. What is the term that coaches use all the time? You're either a Ray or a Rondo. Have you heard that one before? You're either a Ray Allen or a Rondo.
Yeah, just let him go. He's rolling. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll call you. They're like, he's a Ray. It's something like that. It might be he's a Steph at this point if you want to update it. But at one point, I remember a coach saying he's a Ray, he's a Rondo, he's a Ray. I was in like a shoot around with the team.
Rondo is a drastic. That just seems like overly. I feel like there should be one in the middle. Like there should be a third, a solid third option. That's all. But I get the point.
No, they're like going through a scouting report. They're like, okay, 24 is a Rondo. Now, the 31's a Ray, 41's a Ray, 7's a Rondo. That's the way they refer to these players. And it's like a non-shooter and a shooter. Well, Xavier Wheeler, for these purposes, would be a Rondo. So you've got a non-shooter at the 1. Shibwe is what he is. And I really think the best way to maximize those 2 guys' strengths is to have multiple shooters on the court with them as often as possible. Cason Wallace, I don't think he's great at a lot of things, taking the ball from other people apparently, but you wouldn't call him a great shooter or a proven shooter. But you want him on the court. That's why he played 44 minutes in this one. So if we've already agreed, you're going to have Xavier Wheeler, Cason Wallace, and Oscar Tshiebwe on the court, I'd kind of like those other 2 spots to be filled with shooters.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you get to a point where you don't have CJ Frederick and Reeves on the court together an awful lot. You can mix that up and have Jacob Toppin in there with them at some point. But I'm just a big believer in, if you got a non-shooting point guard and a big that needs space to dominate around the rim, you want to put shooters on the court. And the shooters on this roster are CJ Frederick and Antonio Reeves.
The other player we had on our top, we did not have Michigan State player. I did have Toppin. I had Malik Hall and Hauser. No joke, because I remember seeing the final draft. Hauser, I think, was the first or second player off the list. So he just missed it there. A player we had at 69, nice, Kyle Filipowski. Well, he might improve to be 20, 30, 40 spots too low. Duke loses to Kansas late. We're going to get to that. Paris, you go ahead and set it up. I'm not going to steal your thunder here. It's late.
I saw you try it, and then I saw you like.
I was going to take it, but you can take it. I mean, I still got to write a column. My son technically is already 7. I got a birthday thing in the morning, so let's keep rolling.
Game 2 of the Champions Classic was very close to the final minutes as well. Number 6 Kansas 69, number 7 Duke 64. We'll get into that next, but first, a word from our partners.
The UEFA Champions League on Paramount Plus. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath exhilaration. That's brilliant! With more magic and more drama. While a former Bavarian nails the back of the net in Barcelona, an American trades his stars with zebra stripes, and a Norwegian creates sky blue spectacles. So stream every sweat-soaked second of regulation time, stoppage time, and extra time. Beyond magnificent! This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live, exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Kansas 69, Duke 64. That was the final score in the nightcap of the Champions Classic in Indianapolis. I'm still sick. Yeah, you're going to write a column about it whenever we finish this. So let's start with you. What did you make of KU's nice come-from-behind victory over the Blue Devils?
Yeah, I mean, Kansas won because they had Dick. That's basically it. Wow. Grady Dick. 7 points in a minute to flip. They plucked the win right out of Duke's hands, man. And Grady Dick was the reason why. Good defense there. I mean, all around defensively, Kansas inspiring. Jalen Wilson. Let me bring this up here. If you have the stat broadcast, throw it on the screen too if you have it. Because I got to hear on my computer. Yeah, how about this? So Jalen Wilson goes for 25. I believe that is more than he's ever had in his college career. DeJuan Harris one of the few true pass first point guards at the power conference level, gets 10 dimes, a personal best there. Grady Dick, again, comes on strong in the second half. Really, not even the second half. The final, like, you going to make it? You going to make it over there? Comes on.
You just keep
I know.
fun
I'm
with
not doing it intentionally. I know. Listen, we're going to talk about Dick all season long, and we're just going to say these things, and it's just going to be what happens here, okay? Just going to be what happens. You can see the stats on the screen there. Grady Dick in the final couple of minutes. Yeah. Goes off big, 7 points, basically flips the come on, dude. He flips the game. I'm not trying to do it like that. Flips the game. Jeremy Roach did have, he answered with a 3 there down the stretch, but it was the oop from Harris to Grady Dick, and then another, Grady Dick basket there. Big time stuff from Grady Dick. I want to know where Bill Self was watching this game. That's my question. Was he? Is he allowed in the building? Was he in the building? If he wasn't, was he in his hotel room? Was he?
I don't think he can even travel.
He did travel.
He did travel.
According to a report from one Jeffrey Goodman, he did travel with the team.
Okay.
He did travel with the team. I don't know if he can travel with the team or if I don't have any of those details, but I am just genuinely curious. Like,
he probably streamed it on his phone at that Steak and Shake on the corner there.
That's entirely possible. Entirely possible there. It did seem like Duke was gonna win this game. You got you got quality play out of Roach. Man, Filipowski, I undervalued him coming into the season, certainly based off. How about this? This was on the broadcast. This is mind-blowing. Dude, Filipowski is the first Duke freshman ever to start his career with 3 double-doubles. Like Bagley didn't do it. Zion didn't do it. RJ Barrett didn't do it. Christian Laettner didn't do it. Shane Battier didn't do it. Nobody's ever done it. Filipowski is the first one. 3 games to start a career, 3 double-doubles. Who's going to be the best Duke freshman? That's kind of the question here. Something it's Dariq Whitehead, who hasn't even played a game yet. I thought it would be Lively. Maybe it still will be. Filipowski has the best stats so far. Tyrese Proctor, clearly destined to be a first-round pick, and we'll save this discussion for later in the season, or maybe once we see Duke at PK 85. Like, Roach is the starting point guard, but man, Proctor is quite clearly a very dynamic and creative playmaker, and I would expect Shire and his staff to really take advantage of that. They even did a little, earlier in this game, but they can run some offense through both of those players. And this was more, like Duke didn't give it away, in my opinion. This was just like something awoke within Kansas. And I said this on the CBS Sports HQ hit before we did the podcast. To me, if you're a KU fan, yes, you're ranked preseason top 10. You brought back a couple pieces after winning a national championship. But like, you don't have Self on the sideline in this game. And you straight up took this. Like, you got indications here. All right. McCullough wasn't even, a top 2 player for us tonight. We got career performances out of Harris. Jalen Wilson is showing he can be that guy, right? And he might not need to be that guy every night. Grady Dick can be that guy. And there's enough there where you're like, you know what? You're not going to run the table or anything like that. You're going to take your L's, but like, we should probably be okay. Given the way they were able to turn off Duke's water largely, going a 15-5 run to close it. Big time stuff there. I was more impressed with Kansas down the stretch than really like disappointed in Duke. Also, the only other thing I got for you on this game, GP, let's see what we got. 3. Yeah, the teams went a combined 6 of 40 from 3-point range. So it was a clank fest for the majority of the game. And then Roach and Dick traded triples near the end there. But a big win for KU. Where do you have them in your rankings again? Where are they now?
I haven't decided that yet.
Okay.
I mean, obviously in the top 10. And I mean, they were in the top 10 before this game was even played.
Are you not going to have an undefeated KU team ahead of a 1-loss Michigan State team?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the 1 loss is a 1-point loss to the team I have number 1.
All right,
I don't even consider it a loss. I mean, it's obvious.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean,
obviously
it's a loss, but it's not something that makes me change my opinion of you. The way I go about evaluating teams and by extension ranking them is, if you lose to a higher ranked team in a competitive game on a neutral court or on the road, I don't penalize you for that. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, Michigan State is supposed to lose a neutral court game to Gonzaga, according to my rankings and according to even my updated rankings tomorrow morning. So honestly, if I wanted to, based on the way I do this, I could take Michigan State all the way up to number 2. I won't because, North Carolina, although North Carolina has been a little not overwhelming.
We got to get to quick ACC stuff before we get out of here.
Yeah, but I could take Michigan State up all the way up to number 2 Wednesday morning and totally defend it. I won't, but I will have Michigan State at 4, and I will have Michigan State ahead of Kansas. The only thing I'm trying to figure out now is do I take Kansas all the way up to say 5 or 6? Or do I keep them in the 7 or 8 range? And I think I'm leaning toward reward the team that just got a big win. And if Arkansas and Baylor fans want to be upset about getting jumped by Kansas, well then, hey, schedule somebody notable in the opening, 10 days of the season. And then maybe you'll have the same type of signature win and get treated accordingly.
Okay, fair enough. Any other take? I gave you pretty much. I emptied my takes here before.
Well, I think on one hand, there's, and this isn't a unique opinion. Many people had it on Twitter as that game was winding down. There's something to be said for having a national championship veteran point guard. Dwan Harris is not the star of last season's Kansas team. He's not the star of this season's Kansas team. But he had 10 assists and only 1 turn in 35 minutes, and he really created opportunities down the stretch and controlled that game down the stretch in a way that allowed Kansas to erase a Duke lead and then pull away and win that game, where a Filipowski 3 at the buzzer, make it, miss it, doesn't matter. The game is over. So I thought that was really nice. Kansas obviously lost a lot from last season, but they've got their starting point guard back. They got another starter back in Jalen Wilson, who, at least in this one, now he took a lot of shots, 26 shots, but he did go out and get 25, 11, and 5. That's stuff in the box score, so to speak. So you've got the 1, you've got the 4. Grady Dick looks terrific. He's ready to he does not look like a freshman at all. And then, McCullough, he gave him 12 on 50% shooting. So 4 of those starters are high level guys already. And it's why Kansas has got a chance to win another Big 12 title, to go to another Final Four, and maybe, just maybe, I'm not ruling anything out, win back-to-back national championships. The other side is interesting because I know it's just Derek Lively's second game, but the number 1 player in America, or at least in the class of 2022, getting 4 points and 5 rebounds in his first big test, that's not good. I mean, we've seen other heralded Duke bigs on that stage before. Jalo Okafor, Marvin Bagley, Zion Williamson. And they put up big numbers in these types of moments. And Lively just, how about this? If you didn't know nothing about nothing and you just turned on that game tonight, and I said, tell me who was ranked number 1 in the class of 2022, you would not have picked that guy.
Let's go do it. Come on.
He needed that. That's what he needed. He needed some of that in his life, because that's right. Filipowski looks like the much better player at this stage. Now, again, we're not going to overreact, but he was not what Duke needed him to be. And if he was going to play on Filipowski's level, then Duke, frankly, would have won overall. So, Duke's got plenty more opportunities, high profile opportunities coming. Another team heading to PK85. They've got Delaware on Friday, and then they got Bellarmine. They got Bellarmine on Monday.
Watch out.
Bellarmine on Monday before they go to Portland next week. Duke was an ACC team that took a loss. Can I pivot? You got any more thoughts, or can I pivot into the ACC situation?
Brother, it's 108 on the East Coast. I've been sober all night. It's time to pivot.
We're pivoting. Well, first of all, I hate to break this to you, but I got this on stream here too. I think you're going to be ranking Illinois tomorrow.
I've already got Illinois in.
Okay. Well, Dayton looks like it's about to lose at UNLV.
Well, then that means UConn's up next.
Bada bing. UConn, shouts to Tristan Newton. Triple-double against Buffalo. The 4th triple-double at UConn in the past dozen years. Tristan Newton, ECU transfer. That's a big-time plot development, I guess. Okay, so here we go. ACC. There's 2 leagues that have been troublesome. The Pac-12, I'll get to you in a second. But man, oh man, the ACC. I almost lost my other computer on the side of the desk here. Ooh, it's late. All right. Louisville. Damn, dude. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Louisville is 0-3 with 1-point losses to Bellarmine, Wright State, and App State all at home. I posed this on Twitter, and I don't know if this is a retrievable stat. I did see our buddy Jeff Borzello tweeted research reference from ESPN Stats and Info. We know at the very least in the past 41 years, there has not been a team to start a season 0-3 with 3 home losses, all by 1 point. And additionally, Louisville hasn't started a season losing 3 home games in a row since 1940-41. The last time Louisville started 0-3 was 86 when Kenny Payne played for Louisville. They were in the Great Alaska Shootout coming off winning the national championship and started 0-3. Not good. Not good whatsoever there. So Louisville, FSU, both 0-3 teams in the ACC right now. Boston College took a loss Monday night at home against Maine. Pitt's 1-1, took an understandable loss against West Virginia, whatever. Clemson lost at South Carolina, a team that's not supposed to be as good as it. And then Syracuse took a loss on Wednesday night against Colgate. Colgate, like the Syracuse-Colgate game, for 54 years in a row, Colgate lost. A year ago, it went from 1963 to 2021. Syracuse was winning that thing. Colgate, Matt Langle, win it by double digits a year ago, and then got it again on Tuesday night. Now, Colgate's the best team in the Patriot League. Matt Langle is destined for a bigger job. I thought he'd get one this past offseason. He's almost certainly going to get one when we look up in March or April of 23 there. But damn, I actually tweeted that very thing, that Langle should get another job. And then someone was like, shouldn't Syracuse just hire him? Like it's not a terrible point. Other thing in the ACC, Wake needed a 3-pointer just before the buzzer in overtime to get past Utah Valley. I only bring this up because, one, it's notable. You've got a lot of near losses or bad losses, and there's still plenty of time. But this is exactly how you get your conference into a position where we look up on February 26th and you're like, damn, Jerry Palm's got 4 ACC teams in the bracket. It's because you don't get your business taken care of in November and in December. There's still plenty of time. And Louisville, no, not projected to make the NCAA tournament. FSU was. Now, I mean, the slope is just so steep there. Wake, and not exactly. Syracuse, maybe a bubble team, but like losing these games is not going to help the fact, and somehow, some ways down the road, it can actually be the difference between being a quad 1 or quad 2 result there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. I wanted to at least mention the ACC and the Pac-12 there. Do you have thoughts on the ACC, my man?
Well, the Louisville thing is just a disaster. I mean, I'm not ruling out that Kenny Payne can't do a good job in time, but I mean, if you were trying to, script the worst possible start to a head coaching career, it would include an 0-3 start with 3 home losses to mid-majors while DJ Wagner commits to Kentucky.
Oh, by the way, that happened since we last podcasted. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like an absolute disaster. And I saw this from statsperform.com. Do you realize Louisville's last game last season was against Virginia? And it was a 1-point loss.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So Louisville is, according to statsperform.com,
wow,
the first Division I team to lose 4 straight games by 1 point since Stetson did it in a 4-game stretch in December 1982 and January 1983.
Wow.
I mean, it's just an absolute disaster. So that's that. The Syracuse thing is just,
I mean, it's just in your own building, man. Like, and listen, Colgate's a good team. Colgate should make the tournament out of that league. We don't know if Syracuse will, but like, it's double digits. Like, they were housed. Like Louisville, same thing with Louisville. Like, App State never trailed on Tuesday night. Got up by as many as 16. It's not just that you're losing; it's the way that you're losing there. And for Syracuse fans, take it away, GP. But yeah, like, this is why they're reaching their wits' end at the stage the program is at. That's all.
I think folks have gotten to the point with Jim Boeheim, and I don't want to speak for Syracuse fans, but I feel like they've gotten to the point with Jim Boeheim that Florida State fans eventually got to with Bobby Bowden, that, schools often get to and it happens more in football than basketball, because in basketball, we've actually had this place where guys get old and they're still great. Mike Krzyzewski's still great. Roy Williams was still great. And yet in football, they seem to sort of taper off for whatever reason. I think maybe because there's more drastic changes to, offenses and defenses in football. And it can maybe, I'm just speculating here, but maybe be difficult for guys to keep up and change with the times. Nick Saban, I think, being an obvious exception to that. But I would assume Syracuse fans have either reached the point or on the verge of reaching the point of thinking, I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we were, but I don't have confidence anymore that we're going to get back to where we were with Jim Boeheim as our coach. This has sort of been disguised a little bit because of some timely, surprising runs in the NCAA tournament, but that Syracuse basketball program has not been operating at the level at which I watched it operate through much of my childhood and early adult life for a while. And the early signs this season are not good. And I don't know what you could actually point to give you confidence that it's going to be better until, Jim gracefully retires and somebody else takes over that program and remakes it remakes it in a way that can capitalize off of the great stuff that Jim built, and then bring some new energy and just new everything to the campus.
All right, let's sit on the Pac-12 here. Red flags are flying up everywhere. You had Stanford, which got run in its home gym. It was expected to lose, but San Diego State, it was non-competitive. Stanford also didn't beat Wisconsin late last week. You had Oregon lose at home to UC Irvine on Friday night, took a bad loss there. On Tuesday night, Cal is 0-3, another 0-3 power conference team, has home losses to UC Davis, Kansas State, and then I don't understand. This might be just like a University of California State. They played at UC San Diego, which has been D1 for, a minute and a half here. And that was a road game. They lost by 2 on Tuesday night. So Cal is 0-3. Not good, obviously. And then you've got the SWAC teams. In addition, USC barely edged Vermont on Tuesday. They got the win, but they also have the home loss against Florida Gulf Coast. As we mentioned on the previous two podcasts, Pac-12 SWAC, the Legacy Series, it's an awesome thing. It is bigger than basketball. I'm loving that the Pac-12 decided to do it. It's important, and it's a multi-year thing, and there are more teams scheduled to go play on the road at SWAC schools next year. Colorado lost at Grambling State on Friday, bounced back, got the win against Tennessee. Washington State on Tuesday night lost 70-59 against Prairie View A&M. That's in Prairie View A&M's gym. And then Arizona State on Sunday got dropped on the road at Texas Southern. That's 0-3 for Pac-12 teams on the road. Conversely, Pac-12 teams got 3 home games they won. So actually the Pac-12 and the SWAC split the series there. It's wonderful to see a power conference like the Pac-12 setting this kind of example. I am way too cynical to believe that will ever be duplicated, though I'd love to see it at an HBCU level with the MEAC or even other smaller conferences there. But the exact results we have here are why we're probably not going to see it again, because look what's happening, man. Well, I'm not saying this would always be the case. These are not the teams that lost. Arizona State, Washington State, Colorado took the 3 road losses. None of those teams were projected to make the NCAA tournament at the start of the season. So it's not like they were these monumental upsets, but they were very much expected to win, predicted to win, betting lines, predicted measures, the whole thing. But look at what happens when power conference teams are literally forced to go play in small school environments, these HBCU tiny gyms where this is now their Super Bowl. Look what happened. It shouldn't be a shock that these teams are winning. I'm thrilled for the SWAC to have this moment on the basketball court, right? It's so refreshing, I guess. Yes, this is also going to, in some ways, torpedo the Pac-12's chances overall at having resumes, teams competitive in that quad 2, quad 3 standing, quad 1 differentiating, right, GP? But I couldn't help but point out, yes, the Pac-12s have a major struggles, but let's also, let's raise up the SWAC here. Those schools didn't take those games lightly. They won them. They won them in some cases definitively, and just an interesting plot twist for the first week of college basketball this season to see this coming. And it's why we've talked about this many times before on the podcast. Yeah, to a certain extent, the system is rigged against mid-majors and low majors because schools will not do this. Power conference schools will not put themselves in position to go play smaller schools on the road for fear of losing these kinds of games. These will be bad losses. These could all wind up as quad 4 defeats, depending on how these SWAC teams perform for the rest of the season. Why would you ever want to put your program in that kind of position? I get that. But to me, another takeaway from this is when we talk about the teams that just narrowly missed the tournament from mid-major conferences and they wind up being a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed in the NIT, well, they would have been in the damn NCAA tournament to begin with if they'd been given more opportunities to schedule these kind of games. They don't get that. They wind up losing out. More opportunities like this, you'd see more upsets of this variety.
Yeah, I can't imagine what Bobby Hurley thinks of Larry Scott about right now.
he's Bobby.
I mean, I promise you, these coaches are like, why do you put us in this situation? Like I'm with you that heart's in the right place.
Well, and this is also literally out of 2020, George Floyd.
Of course, yes.
I know you know that, but just as a reminder to listeners, that's why they're doing this. The Pac-12 wanted to be a leader in this space and say, no, we want to incorporate competition, communication, camaraderie with HBCUs, and this led to this moment.
And I promise you, there's some Pac-12 coaches like, yo, could we not have just put on a Black Lives Matter t-shirt and got them to come play with us at home? Like, why are we going on the road and playing these games? Because these are going to go down. Like, I want to give Grambling State, Texas Southern, Prairie View A&M, congratulations. Happy for you. These are going to be horrific losses for these Pac-12 schools. I know you know this, but like the SWAC rates in the computers, literally the worst league in the country. So now your league has 3 losses to teams from the worst league in the country. Those ain't going to get better with time. They're just going to be bad forever. And, the other side of this is, hey, like you're supposed to win these games, so just go win the games and shut up.
Yeah, for sure, GP.
Right.
For sure. Go win the damn games.
Yeah,
Yes.
but like, well, I promise you, I don't want to speak for any coach specifically because, maybe they see the big picture and appreciate the big picture. But I promise you there is a Pac-12 coach, if not many Pac-12 coaches, who are saying, why are you forcing us into these situations where literally nothing good can happen, but something really bad can?
Yeah. Hey, listen, them's the breaks. Go win the games. Pac-12 is in an even worse spot right now than the ACC overall. One more result, and it's official. UNLV has knocked out Dayton, so you're going to swap in UConn in your rankings there. St. Louis did hold serve at home 90-84 against Memphis. It was actually a pretty entertaining game, obviously overshadowed by the Champions Classic, but I had a second screen on that, and St. Louis was able to get the job done. That's important for the A-10 and that St. Louis program, which was actually ranked below Memphis in KenPom, but was favored to win the game. Marquette also made it competitive, but lost on the road against Purdue, 75-70 outcome. One more thing that I do want to mention before we get out of here, and it is late, and thanks to everyone. We actually had pretty good viewership numbers here late into the evening on the East Coast, so we appreciate you staying up and listening to us. I do know that we do have plenty of people that listen to the podcast that are from the Charlottesville area, Virginia fans, and there was a tragedy, obviously, this week. Just horrific, harrowing news with the murder of 3 Virginia football players. No, it's not college basketball, but this is a college sports podcast, and no doubt about it, plenty of our listeners, many of them have probably been following the story, were affected by the story. We probably have listeners that, on a community level there, were seriously impacted, and our thoughts completely go out to that community. I did reach out and make just quick, brief contact with Tony Bennett. The Virginia men's basketball game against Northern Iowa that was scheduled for Monday night did wind up getting canceled, not postponed, but canceled. Virginia will play again on Friday. We will preview that game on the Friday AM episode there. But, I don't have anything profound to add here, GP, but I wouldn't have felt right not at least mentioning it before we get out of here, because this is something that has impacted college sports overall, no doubt about it. And this is the kind of thing that is just beyond depressing. It's scary as hell. It's harrowing. It's confusing. It's hard to make any kind of sense of it, period. And 3, tremendously bright, uplifting, souls and spirits were taken from the world for no damn good reason whatsoever. And my thoughts are specifically with the families of those players. Devin Chandler, Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr., all three of them. Their faces and their team shots, that they take in the preseason, that those smiling faces have been across, news broadcasts and on social media, and it's been hard to kind of get the incident out of my head for the past 24 hours because it's harrowing, it's terrifying, and it's so sad. So sincerely, thoughts go out to their families, everyone who knew them, and the Virginia community.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. Like the young man Devin Chandler, he went to high school here in the Memphis area. I didn't know him, but I know people who did, who covered him in high school and wrote about him and talked about him and put him on camera. And I mean, it just seemed like, wow. Like you hope if you have a son, he grows up to be like this guy, just sharp, focused, and everybody's friend. And I guess this is life. This is the randomness of life. Sometimes you get into these deep conversations with people, and folks ask, so what do you believe in? That you get into these conversations, and I always say I believe in randomness. Sometimes good things happen to good people, and sometimes good things happen to bad people, and sometimes bad things happen to bad people, and sometimes good things happen to bad people. It's just you can't really make sense of the world. I don't subscribe to everything happens for a reason. Like I know it's a nice thing to say, when for some people when you need comfort, but I don't believe in that. I don't think everything happens for a reason. I don't think there's any good reason for an 11-month-old baby to get cancer. I don't think there's a reason for, a woman to just be walking in a grocery store and get shot in a rampage. And I don't think there's a reason for a young man to do so well throughout middle school and high school that he is offered the opportunity to go to school at a place like Virginia, one of the great institutions we have in this country, and play football and by all accounts be a productive and awesome member of society, and get shot on a bus coming back from a field trip to a play in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's infuriating because it speaks to one of the big issues we have in this country with guns and gun violence. It's infuriating because as a country, we continue to sort of just live with this rather than try to do something about it. And I'm not going to pretend that, I know exactly how to reduce this problem or alleviate this problem, but I would love it if somebody would take a shot at it. If somebody would try, if we would, at least attempt to try to get this thing under control in our country. In the meantime, you just have to sit back and hope that it doesn't happen to you or somebody you love. And it unfortunately happened to 3 young men, and there are other victims who are injured, but 3 young men who all seem to be awesome, lost their lives in a nonsensical way. And it breaks my heart, but it also infuriates me. And right now we don't really have many answers for why this happened, what led to it. I imagine we'll get some sort of, I hope we'll get some sort of explanation at some point, but for now it's just it's tough. It reminds you on some level of the situation at Baylor so many years ago where a basketball player shot murdered another basketball player. And I thought it was nice to see people from the Baylor community, publicly, reach out to Virginia to say, we're thinking of you. Because if anybody knows what this is like, it's people who lived through that. The whole thing's just sad. And like you, I reached out to people I know in Virginia just to let them know I'm thinking of them. Nothing that won't help anything or bring anybody back. But it's been on my mind too.
Yeah. The most poignant but worst commentary you can say about this is the fact that also Virginia Tech, the site of one of the worst shootings in the history of this country, like we have reached a point here where places and communities that have experienced this kind of horrific violence are reaching out to others in the proximity alone, right? Two rivals. And that's been another part of this whole thing. But as we record this podcast, it's not known when Virginia will play football again. By the time you listen to this, that decision might have well come down. I would think it's going to come down on Thursday or Wednesday. And we're recording this early on Wednesday morning. But again, we just, I had to bring that up. I know it's certainly, depressing and a downer, but it doesn't matter. It deserves mention, and did want to send our best. As we get out of here, I will note that we will podcast again Friday morning. We did switch it up on you. The plan was initially to get this going Wednesday morning, but Champions Classic, this was one of the best Champions Classics the past 6 or 7 years when you consider both games and how close they were. And we wanted to get this to you as soon as possible. And for anyone that woke up Wednesday morning and was surprised to see this waiting for you on YouTube or in your podcast feed, well, we're happy to do that. We're not going to make a crazy habit out of it before we get to March and postseason play, but when results warrant, if there's big enough stuff, then we'll try and see if we can turn it. GP's not in the TV studio, and I'm here tonight. Gonzaga will go at Texas on Wednesday night. That is the biggest game on the schedule before we will podcast again. Of course, we will touch on that on the next episode. And if you're wondering what else is kind of big out there, on Wednesday, it's really Gonzaga, Texas, and then there's a pretty big, sizable drop-off after that. Probably Iowa playing at Seton Hall. Those are, of course, a continuation of the Gavitt games. That's one to keep an eye on overall. There's some other stuff there, but it would really only result in a mention if there wound up being an upset. And then Thursday is pretty quiet overall in terms of big-time appeal. Friday, big-time slate, a lot to get to. We'll touch on that on Friday's episode with our weekend picks and lay it all out for you. But that's all I got, GP. I got to go right about Duke and Kansas and file that, and then got my little buddy's birthday here in the morning. Wait, he's gonna be up and ready and rolling to go. I know, literally, you just had yours today. So when your son's just had his birthday, my son now gets it here technically as we speak here on November 16th. So that's part of the dad life. I'm all too happy. But yes, I'm going to be operating on March level kind of sleep right now out of nowhere in the middle of November, and hey, it ain't all that bad.
Yeah, I've already got a Wednesday afternoon nap planned. I know exactly when I'm going to try to take it. We'll see how it goes. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please, 5 stars at Apple. Leave a nice review. Type some words. There's more of us than there are of them. You know that already. We'll talk to you again on Friday morning. Till then, take care.